Hello, welcome to Everybody's Lost podcast. I'm Veronica Muñoz Martinez, journalist and your host, and today we are going to talk about a topic that is really close to my heart. If you have listened to my trailer or know a bit about my life, my mom took her own life 2 years ago, and more than 700,000 people kill themselves every year. This is one every 43 seconds. This is just shocking. And these suicides come often because of depression and also substance abuse that can trigger it. I'm going to give you some data so you know the magnitude of it because we know it's bad, but not this bad. So there are 300,000 people addicted to class A drugs in the UK, and the double dependent on alcohol too. When it comes to young people, almost a million said they use substances, and two-thirds of those are men. So this is why I decided to invite someone who knows very well about this topic. Is Zach Oliver. He's a coach and has over 300,000 followers. He helps people overcoming addiction because he went through it as well. He overcame cocaine addiction and now gives amazing advice, amazing insight, and also shares his raw truth, what he went through. So, yeah, thank you so much, Zach, for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
So, we are going to talk about cocaine addiction, and I talked about how many people are addicted to substances per year. And actually, in the UK, two-thirds of those who are in rehab are male. So tell me about the first time you tried substances. How was it?
I was 13 when I first started smoking weed, 15 when I started doing cocaine, and both times were for the exact same reason, because I wanted to fit in. I just wanted to be cool. Smoking weed, I threw up straight away. But cocaine, I immediately liked it. It was an immediate,
Immediate.
immediately liked it. I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. And it was always with older people. So I was 15, they would have been 17, 18. And yeah, I had to grow up really fast in my life because without parents there to kind of nurture you, support you, and you have to look after yourself, and therefore you have to become a man as quickly as possible. And I was all about trying to be a man and to be confident, be funny, and be cool. And also, as a way of buying friends. So, earning money was important to be able to buy drugs, which then allowed you to have people around, or to keep people around, because having friends was difficult being as dysfunctional as I was.
Dysfunctional in which sense? So it comes from trauma. You were brought up in a dysfunctional family.
Yes, my mother was an alcoholic, and my father was extremely violent and abusive, and both of them were just awful parents. Really, I never really experienced what it was to feel loved, and as a result, like when I had friendships or even relationships, when anyone got close, I would always do something to destroy it, because I didn't know why I would do these things, then like question why I did them. Like I just felt so ashamed of the things that I was doing, but unconsciously they just kept happening. I don't know, and I didn't know why. A lot, especially around women, cheating and stuff like that. It was always this kind of self-sabotaging behavior. And I think ultimately it came down to the fact that I just didn't trust anyone and didn't feel worthy of any of the friendships that I was creating. So every time I got near to someone knowing me and someone really understanding and seeing the true nature of my vulnerability, push them away and get them away. And drugs was a huge part of that.
Yeah, like it's shocking that you started taking drugs at the age of 13. So I was looking out statistics, and almost a million of students told in a recent survey that they tried drugs, and cannabis one was one of them. So why, like, do you think it's really easy to get them in the UK?
Yeah, especially cocaine. I'd say it's easier to get cocaine than it is to get weed, because cocaine is in every bar, pub, club in the whole of the UK. But at that younger age, I just think, yeah, it's still everywhere. Like it's so easy to find people that are in that kind of 17, 18-year-old scene if you want cocaine, and that's the sort of age group that you're looking at. So from the ages of like 13, 14, 15, you can find people, males, always male mainly, that are either selling drugs or they know someone who's selling drugs. And if you can find someone who sells weed, that means you can normally find someone who sells coke because they'll know someone.
Yeah, it's just shocking how normalized it is. Do you think also it's really normalized? Like you thought at the age of 13 or 15 that that was normal, it was okay because all your circle were doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw my mother was taking pills since, forever. She was overdosing and
Piece of what?
tried to commit suicide many times and had to call an ambulance to try and save her life. And so, but I'd seen, with alcohol and drugs that it was a means to avoid pain. So if you are sad or if you're, that was my mum's behavior. It was always, she was depressed and sad and angry, so she would drink or take drugs. So that was kind of unconsciously learned. So when it came to smoking weed or doing coke, it was just like, yeah, fine. Like it didn't seem out of the ordinary for me at all. It seemed, if anything, it seemed like what I should be doing.
Yeah, this is something personal to me as well. I really relate to you because my mom was doing the same, like taking pills, mainly anti-anxiety, anti-depression pills, but
Mm-hmm.
to like the limit of overdosing and calling ambulance and also drinking a lot to the point that she didn't remember anything, to black out. I think also to numb her feelings. What's the same to with your mom? Like she
Yeah,
will have like aggressive behavior or
she wasn't necessarily aggressive. My dad was. My dad was aggressive. He was violent, and they would fight each other. And he was extremely violent with her. And yeah, to the point, you wouldn't hit a man as badly as he hit my mum. So she was always fighting, and there was always fight, like the children. We were all getting hit as well, especially myself and my older sister. We were the two middle children. We seemed to, for some reason, be more in my father's sight when it come to abuse. But my mother was just crazy. Her behavior was crazy. It was frightening. And the thing is, I think I don't know if it's worse, but it feels worse, I guess, from my point of view. She didn't become an alcoholic until I was maybe 4 or 5, I don't think. So I had some years of building this very, very
yeah,
close
close
connection.
relationship with
Yeah.
her.
So, and I was very like my mum. I was the only one with blue eyes. We were very, very close, very tactile, so affectionate physically, like nurturing in that way. So she was my go-to, and my dad was working all the time, and my dad also really favored my brother. So for me, she was kind of my everything. And then overnight, she was just gone, and this other person turned up, this lunatic who was acting crazy and insane and smashing stuff up and just laughing and thinking that life was just a joke basically, and that we didn't really matter to her anymore. It was just like we were there but we didn't exist. It's like she could see she wouldn't see you. She was so drunk, so blind drunk, and so intoxicated with whatever she was taking. But it was like we were invisible. So you kind of went from really being so important and so loved to not meaning anything to this person. And that, I think, does a lot to you. I always thought it was the physical abuse from my father that really would have been more damaging than anything else, and it wasn't. It was actually her. It was more the relationship with my mum, and that feeling of that sense of abandonment and not feeling wanted, not feeling loved, like there's something wrong with you, that you're not good enough. And it all kind of stems, everything in my life that went wrong stemmed from that feeling. And I had it from both parents. Both parents made me feel like that, but I think it was more impactful from my mother because of the close connection that we'd already had.
Yeah, you had this loving man, and sorry for what you went through. Thank you for sharing, and I understand you completely because my mom was the same. I think I had the perfect mom until I was maybe 20 years old, and she was so
Mm.
loving, healthy, everything, but then addictions came to place and alcohol addiction, and she also just became like a completely different person that I couldn't recognize her anymore. And you, maybe you were thinking also like, why this? Why can't you
Mm.
change? Why are you doing this? And also, I don't know, but for me, it made me kind of wonder even myself. Like I was kind of, I don't know, I had a lot of depersonalization and a lot of anxiety because you had to become like the parents of your own parents, and you are wondering about yourself as well, right? Like,
Mm.
what should I do? Should I do more? And
Yeah, I think with when you have to become the parent, that's when things change. You know, like I became my mother's protector.
yeah,
So I was always trying to keep her alive so that she could be my mum.
yeah,
And also trying to protect her from my dad. And there was also conflict between me and my father. So my mum was also trying to protect me. So that, yeah, it was this weird triangle of kind of pain and suffering. And yeah, I think once you reach that point, you lose your childhood. I think you change from, well, I guess when you're in your 20s, so you kind of had that childhood, but I don't know whether it's harder or easier, whether you lose them later on in life or whether you lose them younger. I think it's probably the same. Maybe even harder if you've had longer with them because that bond is stronger, and maybe you get to know them longer. You get to kind of fall in love with the person that they have been. Whereas I don't ever remember that really. Like I was so young when she became an addict. So you know, with both my parents, there's no love there. There's no, you know. And someone said to me, if they passed away, how would you feel? And I was like, of course it would be sad, but would it make a difference to my life? Sadly not. You know, it really wouldn't make a difference to my life because I don't, like you had, by the time you were 20, built such a really beautiful relationship. I don't have that. You know, even both of them still alive, I still don't have that. So if they did pass away, it wouldn't change my life for my son either. You know, their involvement because of their addictions and their behaviors has made it impossible for them to have a relationship with my son as well. So yeah, there's also that feeling of they choose the alcohol over you.
yeah. And
Mm,
also, they chose to have you. This is something that we have to remember. Like, you didn't choose to be their son, but they chose to have you, and they
mm,
should have been a like healthy parents. And also, for you, I think it was normal when you are so little. For you is normal, you see that,
mm,
experience that every day, and you don't really talk that with that
mm.
with your classmates. But when you come to your teenage years, that's when it hits, when you realize that, okay, this is not normal. And that's when, I think, for you, when you first tried drugs, for you was an escape from all of that, because it was a way of feeling happiness, or
Yeah, I think not necessarily the drugs at that point. It was more the people.
the community.
Yeah, because you know you feel alone. You don't feel like anyone wants you. So it was more about feeling wanted by people. I think at the beginning, the drugs were fun, yeah, but it didn't really matter to me that much. What I was more dependent on at that point was the attention from other people, women and even friends, boys, like just wanting to have people that liked me, that wanted to hang around with me, and to be wanted by a woman was really really important, but also so conflicting because I didn't trust women at all. So one
Because
hand
of your mom.
because of my mum, yeah, because she always let me down. She was always what I knew of women was pain, pain, suffering, hurt, and let down. So then that creates this gap in your life where your mother should be. So then you're desperate to fill it with a new partner. Even from that thought, by the way, came from a very young age. I was looking at older girls from, age of 8, 9, 10, just looking at like teenage 15, 16-year-old girls thinking that girl could save me. That girl could come and, look after me, but also be my girlfriend. It was this
Could,
weird
like,
kind
that
of,
mother.
yeah, mother slash girlfriend,
Yeah.
at a young age, just sort of desperate to be loved and taken away from this dangerous situation that I was in. So I was kind of already idolizing women in this way. But then as I got older, in relationships, I'd never trust them. I would always expect them to be hurt. So I was desperate to have them on one hand, but then my behavior was to defend myself against them, to push them away, to keep them at arm's length at all times. So that would lead me to things like cheating, being dishonest and lying, and just hurting them in a ways emotionally, to just keep them from ever really getting close enough to me so that I could never get hurt by them.
Yeah, you are self-sabotaging yourself. So
Mm.
before them hurting me, I'm hurting them first.
Yep.
And because if the people who matter the most to me, my parents, they fail me,
Mm-hmm.
everyone can do it. I think that
Yep.
is what was going through your mind.
Well, I think it's just your perspective is that's your belief. It's
Yes.
like I believe that women will hurt me, so I must keep myself safe in whatever way I know how. And the way I found was, yeah, to cause pain and hurt. Even if they didn't know, it was more like, right, I've got this kind of this card in my back pocket. Like, if you cheat on me or if you do something to hurt me, I can pull it out and go, well, I don't really care. I already did it. So see ya, on to the next.
Yeah, like avoidant kind of.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so many dysfunctional behaviors growing up, and the sad thing about all of that is that it constantly reinforces the belief that there's something wrong with you. So you had all this evidence from your parents, or in my life, and from your parents that, oh, you're not wanted, you're not enough, there's something wrong with you, no one will love you, everyone will hurt you, do not trust anyone. Okay, so then you start behaving in a certain way to keep yourself protected from ever getting hurt, and that pushes everyone away, and that makes you think, well, there's something wrong with me. So people keep coming into your life and then abandoning you, but all because of your own behavior. But that abandonment is just a repeat of the same behavior that you had growing up. So this inner wound that you have is creating your outer experience and repeating it over and over again. And every time it's just deepening the wound, making it harder and harder to get over. And that's why drugs come into play. As you get a bit older, it becomes harder and harder to keep reliving these same traumas over and over again. And then drugs help you cope. They help you survive through it. They help you ignore how you really feel. They help you just carry on and pretend like you don't care about what's going on, that you're fearless, that nothing hurts you and no one will hurt you, and you're
Numbs
confident.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you
Well,
think drugs numb you in that sense?
I think at the start, yes, like, but more so towards the end. Like at the start, your relationship with drugs is so different. At the beginning, it's an enhancement, and it allows you to be things that you weren't before, especially cocaine. It's like you feel more confident, you feel funnier, you can hold your drink better, so you're less embarrassing when you're going out. So immediately you think that you're a better person on it than you are when you're off it, which again is another way of reinforcing that belief that you're not enough, that there's something wrong with you, because I have to become something else with this substance in order to just be enough. And then again, all of these behaviors, it's just repeating the same narrative over and over again, that there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. And then you have to keep doing more and more until eventually that all those positive effects, or positive, that you had at the beginning wear off after like 2 or 3 years. And then some people even shorter than that. It can be 6 to 12 months. And you're left with this habit that doesn't give you all the things it had at the start, that now it's reached that point where it's about numbing. Now you're doing it because it doesn't give you all the good stuff anymore, but it does stop you acknowledging the truth of how much you hate yourself. That's the biggest escape, I think, that drugs give you, is you can keep running from that truth around how you truly feel about yourself. And acknowledging that pain is the thing that everyone is running from. But when you stop taking it, it's almost like it comes
It's
up.
when it hits all the anxiety when you are sober, is when you can feel your emotions clearly. Also, when everything hits, you feel anxious, you feel this depression. But when you go back again to the same vicious circle of taking drugs and being with your community, with your friends who did the same, then everything fades. And then there it goes again. You feel maybe hangover and blaming yourself, and then you keep doing it.
Yeah, and it's that vicious cycle. But I think ultimately most people get to this same point where the drugs don't work anymore. And they're also causing so much pain and suffering and destruction in your life that your reality becomes more painful than facing yourself. Because facing yourself is extremely painful, and it's going to be hard. But when you're getting away with it, I like to call it, yeah, getting away with it, and life's still okay, you're not suffering, the consequences aren't mounting up, people won't stop using. It's only when things start fading, like careers get jeopardized, or jobs get lost, or businesses start to fail, relationships crumble, friendships start to deteriorate, families start to cut you off, and it's just like, okay, this drug is slowly removing every aspect of my life that I actually used to love, and now I'm just completely alone. Which, so now it's not working anymore. That chaos, that pain and suffering that it's causing externally is far more hard to stay in that than it is to go, okay, if I stop using, I'm gonna have to face myself. that will be painful. I'll have to face all these traumas that I've been through and experience whatever it is that I've been trying to avoid. And that pain has a good end, whereas the pain of using has no good end. So you get to that point where this is when addicts, I think, finally change. But your pain tolerance determines how long you'll stay in that place for. Mm. If you've suffered loads in your life, your pain tolerance is extremely high. So your rock bottom will be lower than most people. So some people like they'd stop here because they'd be like, "Oh my god, this is dreadful. I can't do this." Our pain tolerance is so high; it has to be like catastrophically painful in order for us to go, "Okay, that's enough."
So what was that moment where like that was catastrophically painful?
It was with my son actually because I'd already lost businesses. I was losing another job or on the cusp of losing another job and business that I'd started, and I'd lost loads of money, loads of friends, people had died, and yeah, it taken so much physically from me. But I always had my son, and I always had a strong relationship with him, despite my addiction, I think, making me definitely fail on a lot of fronts for him. But I was still showing up as best I could, and he was still around. I still had him half the time. But then I saw the consequences of my actions, where essentially I let him down so badly that he was just in floods of tears. He was crying his eyes out, and I had to hold him, knowing that I was responsible for it, and him not really understanding why. I tried to speak to him about this other day actually to see if he remembers, and he don't, which is obviously a
How old is he?
he's 13 now, so yeah,
13.
he's great now. He lives with me nearly full time, pretty much. So he sees his mum every other weekend. But yeah, that moment seeing him was like seeing myself at his age with my mum. And so I'd realised that I'd become my mother, and the pain of experiencing that was was so difficult because I'd tried so hard to not be my father. I didn't expect that I would have become my mother. So yeah, when I saw that and that pain hit me, that was it. That was the moment. And then the next day, I sent him home to his mum, and I just said, I can't be his dad anymore. I can't. I don't deserve. Sorry, he doesn't deserve to have a father like me, as poor as I am right now. He deserves so much more than that, and I can't deliver. And until I can, I don't want him back. And she was furious and fought me on it so much, and but ultimately I had to stand by my decision. And then I went to rehab about 2 weeks later, and then I've been clean ever since. But yeah, even when I came out, it was still, he wanted to be with me as much as he could, and I couldn't because I didn't want to reintroduce him into my life until I was sure. I tried to get clean several times and failed. So yeah, just because I'd done 3 weeks in rehab, I'd already been to rehab
Why did you
once.
fail? Why? What do you think it made you fail?
I wasn't ready. I was doing it for other people. I think when you're ready, because it's like I'm going to do everything and anything I can to stop. And at that point, I desperately went and saw some of my business partners at the time and broke down and cried my eyes out, told them what was going on. Please, can you help me get to rehab? And they did. The first time I went was different. My business partner at the time turned up in my living room, and I'd been awake all weekend and I was asleep, and I opened my eyes. He was just standing there. I was like, oh fuck. He says, "You know where we're going, right?" And I was like, "Rehab." And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Great." And yeah, the first trip to rehab was very different. Like I felt like I was just playing a game. Like I was just biding my time and doing what the therapists wanted me to do, but really having no
You didn't
no
want to do it.
yeah, there was no real intention. I was just doing it to. It's almost like going to prison and doing the jobs that they give you without any kind of.
It's like forced.
Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, I really want to be here because I want to do this. I mean, I guess no one really wants to be in rehab, but you have to want to go to rehab. You have to want to get well. And yeah, the second time I took myself there, and I was only in there 3 weeks, but I just smashed the work. Like I was so into doing it, and yeah, I was really putting all of my love and energy into this because it mattered to me. Because my life didn't matter so much, but his life, my son's life, did, and he was kind of like the anchor. He was the thing that kept me tethered to this world, and because if it wasn't for him, I would have probably killed myself. That's those 2 weeks before going to rehab, in between sending him home, I debated it for those 2 weeks. It was like, should I just end it all? Because, and I've never really, I tried to overdose and intentionally tried to kill myself before, but it was never as serious as that. Those 2 weeks of sitting there, it was like real contemplation, real sincere belief around doing it, because if I make that decision, I was gonna make it. And the only thing that I had to keep me anchored to this world was Archie. You know, him being his life without me, just playing that take forward, and every single possible scenario or possible future that I played out in my head always ended with him in so much more pain than if I was here. So okay, that means I'm not going to kill myself. I'm gonna live. So what's the option? It's I've got to get clean. I've got to stop drinking. I've got to stop taking coke. Like, that's it. And then I went to rehab probably 2 or 3 days after I'd finally made that decision. And that'd be over 6.5 years ago now.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this, and I'm so sorry. This must be so hard for you to talk about and suicide. So, can you tell me a bit like those moments that you tried to take your own life? It was just to end this pain, but also because cocaine and drug addictions make you more depressed, like have these negative and weird thoughts. So, how were those moments?
I think it's a bit of a mixture of both for me. Some people, I think, don't have any real like terror. They don't have a bad life. They don't have traumatic lives, but they end up getting addicted to drugs, and they end up ending their lives on a come down because it. And I actually worked with these 4 women recently who had all lost their sons. I think all under the age of 25, due to suicide on a come down from cocaine. And never had any mental health problems, never had any depression, anxiety, nothing. They were just using, and I think perhaps at the very early stages of addiction, and the come down was so awful for them that they took their lives. So I think there's that version of it, but for me, it was, I already kind of hated myself anyway. There was this huge hole in my life, where love should be, and I didn't have it, and I always knew it. So on come down, sometimes it would get just worse. It would feel worse. So I would do silly things like I took 20 diazepam once, 10 milligram diazepam, and on top of God knows how much alcohol and cocaine, and collapsed down the stairs and fell to the bottom and woke up in hospital. It was always tablets that I was, always overdosed on them 2 or 3 times. I'd overdosed on diazepam. So that one was intentional. I remember just getting so angry and so sad. Everyone had fallen asleep, and I was just like, I just thought, fuck this, and I took them all. But I think my tolerance for drugs, unfortunately, was incredible. Well, fortunately, should I say, was really high. I was okay, and I came out of hospital like a day or so later.
So you are lucky to be alive, basically,
I think in general,
because
I
you had
think
a lot of luck, because all that you are telling me, everything that you took is wow.
like it was a lot. Like there was points in my life where I was taking 7 or 8 grams of cocaine in a day, and then on top of that, maybe Viagra for sex, and then on top of that, sleeping tablets, so stop going to sleep. Sometimes also doing steroids when going to the gym. So that's 4 things that you're taking already, and then on top of that, diazepam, Valium. It's just like the amount of drugs that I was taking. And sometimes you'd mix it with ketamine as well. So like I could have five drugs in my system all at the same time to a high degree. So it was very fortunate that I didn't die, to be honest. Yeah, even by accident, the amount I was taking, it was pretty wild. It was frightening.
Yeah, I'm really shocked. Also, ketamine is another drug that is on the rise with so many young people. But I'm glad that you are talking about this, and so many people are talking about this problem nowadays on social media. Men are being more open. But when you were taking it, or when you were young, was this conversation about it or not really?
Was this conversation what about drugs?
Yeah, so did you talk about it? Did you know this was normal, or did you know that this wasn't normal to take this amount of substances?
What happens when you're kind of traumatized in the way that I am, or the way that I had been, is that you attract people who have the same sort of frequency. So you don't know this, and I see it in my son's life now. He's got some wounds of his own, due to the life that I had lived and to the life that his mother has lived, and those wounds have affected him. And then you see the community that he attracts, and they're very similar. And it's because we kind of reject these people that are maybe more secure, come from really loving and stable
You can't relate
environments.
to them.
Exactly. And it's not even a conscious thing. You just unconsciously attract the people that are similar to you. So, no, drugs did not seem like a thing we shouldn't be doing, because everyone I knew did it.
Yes.
From 13 till 30, everyone I hung around with, there was no one in my life that didn't do drugs. No one, even like all of my siblings, everyone. It was just normal. And you don't think that you're doing anything wrong, especially when you've got a community of people around you, all kind of justifying your behavior. And ultimately, when you try and stop as well, you get those people don't want you to because they get upset by the fact that you're trying to move away from a life that they can't move away from, that they really want to, and it makes them feel unconsciously, it makes them feel worthless because they can't do it. So people, when I stopped, not all of them were happy. In fact, most of them never spoke to me again.
Really?
Yeah,
You
like most of the people I hung around with, for the last maybe 5-10 years of my life, don't see anymore. Almost overnight. And yeah, one or two that I still kind of connect with. I think actually just one from my but he was someone. Yeah, I've known him since I was 13, and he's the only friend I've still got that has known me longer than anyone else. Everyone else that I hang around with now, or all my friends, they're all sober. None of them drink, which again is another, you attract what you are,
exactly,
right?
yeah. They need
So,
to inspire you. Your circle needs to inspire you rather
mhm.
than bring you down. So, did you also decide when you went finally to your last rehab and decided this time I'm going to recover? Did you also decide to like just cut friendships who were not healthy?
I would have done anything, and if it meant sacrificing every friend I had, so be it. It didn't matter. I think I got to this point where it's just like I'll listen to what anybody has to say in terms of how I should do this, because the way I have tried to do it has failed over and over again for 6 years of trying, and my way doesn't work. So, and one of the suggestions that people had is people, places, and things, and it's about what people, places, and things are going to pull you back into that life.
And trigger you.
Anybody who used drugs, I just said, like, I'm not interested anymore. I just said, look, I'm happy to hang around with you and spend time with you doing more wholesome things. If you want to go climb a mountain, or if you want to do X, Y, and Z, I'll do that. But no one wanted to, because their life didn't need to change. So why should they change for me? Which is fair enough. It would have been nice if some of them wanted to, but yeah, no one did. They wanted to stay in their own life and do what they were doing. And some friends naturally, as time went on, did change their lives on their own and followed the same path as me, and then we reconnected. So I think as well, if you're scared about making this decision, don't be. All it does is open up the space for the new people that are going to be entering your life, that are going to support your journey, that will nurture your journey and help you through, and walk the same path that you're walking. And yeah, I think it's important to make that space for them, because if you're trying to let your old life live, then your new life won't be able to exist. You can't have one foot in your old life and one foot in your new life. It just doesn't work. You'll end up going back. So it's about kind of letting, I think, we all go through kind of death and rebirth over and over again throughout our life. And addiction is just like one of these big ultimate deaths. It's forcing you to kill part of yourself. It's forcing you to let this part of you die, so that you can then live this new life that is almost completely different. So everybody thinks of addiction as this curse, and it's so unfair. And I don't look at it like that. I think it's a gift. The person I've become today as a result of my addiction is, it would not have happened. It would not have happened if I didn't become an addict. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, just because you heal from your addiction, that you have to then kind of walk this journey, then this path of introspection and self-reflection and inner healing and growth and all of that, and spirituality doesn't necessarily have to be your journey. But for me, it was. And I just carried on going. I just wanted to keep evolving, keep learning, and keep understanding myself, keep knowing myself more and more and more. And I was forced into that by my addiction. You know, it was like, okay, either die or do this. And it was like, okay, I'll do that then. So yeah, it's like kind of like this gift of forcing you into a death and rebirth scenario. And once you're in that cycle of death and rebirth, you end up keep repeating it. That's what I've learned on my journey, is that there's just these parts of you that have to die, and there's parts of you that take longer than others. You know, like part of me only died recently, and it took over 6 years to kind of really let it go. And that was, you know, to be in relationships, you know, to need love and to want to be in a relationship. And that
Yeah.
took, that was my primary addiction. So it took me over 6 years to really let this part of me die. And then you've got things like ego death, and so that takes longer. And these parts of you think that they're there to help you survive, so they don't want to die. So it's really, really hard. You know, these journeys that we go on, and these deaths and rebirths, they're extremely painful. And like mentally, physically, I've been going through so much recently with this inner death, and like feeling so drained, so tired, and having to still deliver on all the things that in life that you have to deliver on, like being a parent, running a business, social media, and then coaching. Like there's all these avenues that I'm having to deliver whilst going through this internal journey of, it's almost like being torn apart, and part of you is just being ripped out, and it doesn't want to go. So yeah, it's wonderful, but it is tough, and it's not necessarily for everyone.
This is more about self-love, because you didn't love yourself, so you had to find external validation and love outside, right? So with this community and addictions, and then when you went to rehab, you have to do everything alone, and you start learning how to love yourself. And as you said, it's like a rebirth, so you are exploring a new identity, letting go of your trauma, letting go of all your addictions. And yeah, how was that for you? Because recovery isn't easy. It's not like, okay, you recover and that's it. How is it going now for you, like this recovery journey? It must be hard as well.
I think recovery kind of ended for me a while back. Like everybody's different. People sometimes say you're in recovery forever. I don't personally believe that. I think for me, like healing my addiction probably took 2 years, and the last 4 years have been about healing myself. Yeah, I think you have to, like whenever I'm coaching people, I always treat them in two phases. It's like the first part is healing your addiction, and all of the work and the practices that are involved in kind of getting your addiction under control. Once you've done that, then it's about healing the wounds that made you an addict in the first place. And generally that is feelings of not being enough, not feeling worthy, and not feeling lovable or wanted, you know, all these things. And basically, like, what we do with addiction is, if we remove the drugs, we'll just put something else in it. You know, so for me, I put down drugs, but then I came out and put relationships straight back in that box. You know, so it was just, I went from one addiction back to my primary addiction, which was attention, essentially, validation. And that's why my social media, I didn't grow as quickly as I could have, because I wasn't capable of having a relationship with it that wasn't dependent. So I started doing it on the basis that it was going to be to help other people. And that very quickly turned into, I want to be famous. Yeah. So it
The
was,
attention
yeah,
is
because I
all
had
about
all
the
of this.
attention,
I
yes.
wasn't expecting it to go as well as it did, as
So
quickly as it did.
viral, yes. You have over, like, now 300,000 followers in total. That's a big community.
Yeah, it's been wild, but this year has probably been the most growth, to be honest with you. You know, because I had, when I first got clean, I had a year off social media. I didn't post anything. I didn't even have the apps. I didn't have accounts, nothing. So 12 months no social media. Then I started my account, and then it took off, and then so I spent a year on it, and it got very unhealthy very quickly.
You hyper focused on it. You told me when we
Obsessed.
had
Yeah.
the initial meeting that you were posting 5 times a day. So
Yeah.
that was your next addiction.
Yeah, it was just, I was waking up through the night responding to people's comments. You know, I'd literally, my phone was just like constantly in my face. I couldn't be present in a room, you know, so I just got so obsessed, and it wasn't because I wanted to help people anymore. It shifted very quickly. My brain put that into the box like, oh, fame. If I'm famous, then I'm good enough.
Yeah, and
So
it will solve all my problems,
yeah,
and it's like now I will feel validated that I'm successful, I'm doing something.
yeah,
But this is really honest from you. Not
yeah,
many
yeah.
people will be,
No, no,
because to be
it's
honest, most of people will say, no, I want to have followers, I don't care about the followers, but not many people are as vulnerable as you are. It's like, yeah, I wanted actually to be famous.
yeah. Well, it didn't start. My intention was to help, and then my brain just switched it like a light switch into putting into that kind of addiction box, like this validation box. That there's something outside of me to prove that I am enough. So as soon as I realized that was happening, I took another year off. And then I went back on social media a year later. Same thing happened again. So I had another year off, and that's why I hadn't grown it so quickly. I think I just wasn't ready for it. I was not ready for, because if I'd have carried on posting, it would have just been a very unhealthy relationship with it. And it was for me about, I knew I wasn't ready to build a profile until I could manage the attention that it was going to get me without needing it, without becoming dependent on it, without caring whether or not people like my content or not, about caring whether or not I'm going to be famous or not. And then also there's a power and responsibility that comes with having a large audience, like what you're going to do with it.
Exactly.
And I think also you need to be mentally, spiritually in a place where the content that you're delivering is of a certain standard, that it's giving good advice.
And you don't want to be a scam. Like if you are going through a bad period of your life and you are giving advice, it feels like you are scamming people, right?
Yeah, I was going through a lot of chaos in my life, especially in relationships. Like as much as I knew about addiction, there was still a lot in my own life that needed fixing, a lot about myself that needed fixing. So I think that was another kind of reason. I was like, I can't keep. I also noticed it in some of the videos that I was posting. If I go back maybe even a couple of years and just look at where I thought at the time I was really well and I was really healed and I was doing all this great stuff, and I look at the content and it's like, I don't agree with that content anymore. So now I'm at a place where I agree with everything that I'm doing, and I'm delicate and careful with the posts that I make and the content that I'm putting out and the advice that I give. And also I knew that coaching was going to be a part of it, but I also needed to be ready to do that.
Exactly.
I never intended on doing coaching. It was just something by request. People kept asking, can you help? Can you work with me? Can you be a coach or a mentor? And it wasn't a part of the plan. And then suddenly I just realized that so many people wanted it. I was like, okay, clearly I'm supposed to do this. And now it's been beautiful. Like it's been so great. Like, yeah, I've only been doing it for a few months, and I haven't ever advertised for it. It's just people have just come and asked me. So I've never had to try. And everybody that I work with is just so beautiful. And I learn as much for myself in what I'm doing and what I'm saying. Every person I work with is just like a mirror. It's like looking at myself
Like
maybe a
years
year
ago,
ago,
yeah.
maybe 5 years ago, not necessarily in where they're at, but just the part of their journey that they're experiencing. Like healing's not linear. I don't think you can look at it in time, but they'll be going through something. Like some of them might be losing a business, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I know where you're
I've
at.
been through
Yeah, I've
that,
been through
yes.
that. So I know how to talk to them because I'm just talking to that version of me at that time. So I think that's what most people love the most when I'm working with them, is being seen and feeling connected to someone who's been exactly where they are.
So when someone comes to you, what are the first things you tell them? Of course, this is different from every person, but what do you think are the first steps for recovery?
Honesty. Honesty is always the first one. I think most people who are using, people don't know how much in their life, they don't know how much they're using. They don't know what's going on. They don't even maybe know that they're an addict. And they're hiding it. People are hiding it and getting away with it. When you're hiding it and getting away with it and having this little secret relationship with the drug, it becomes really dark and almost evil, and it's seductive as well, though, because as much as it's weird and crazy, but no, it's also special. Like no one really understands this special relationship you have with this drug, because it's so intimate, it's so personal, and there's so much weird stuff that's going on that nobody else could really ever, you wouldn't even let anyone know the stuff that you're doing on this drug. So it does become it like this is your best friend. But I think as long as you're hiding that, the addiction has somewhere to live.
Yeah.
So it's almost like lies and deceit and deception is the shadows in which addiction is able to hide. And if you shine a light on all of that stuff that you're doing, tell everybody that is willing to help you and support you on this journey that you trust, tell them everything about what you've been doing, so that you haven't got anywhere to hide this behavior anymore, so that they know how to help you, so that they can become supportive along your journey. And then suddenly you've exposed the addiction. It's almost like shining a light on an animal that goes like this, and it's like, oh no, now I can be seen. And now everybody knows what you're up to. They'll be more kind of savvy to your behavior, and
Checking
then
up as well on you.
yeah, they'll be checking up on you. They'll be looking up. They'll be trying to look after you and look out for you and support you on this journey. And I think that's when you know you're ready, when you're willing to kind of step out of this shadow of this secrecy and denial, and
Yeah,
just
because
go.
so many people hide it. So many people, even if their family suspect a weird behavior, they will say, "No, you are blaming me. Why are you accusing me of such things?" At least my mom was like that. So you have to admit it. But I think it's really hard to admit it, right?
Yeah, because there's so much shame. You're so ashamed of this version of yourself that you have become, and the things that you might have done while you were on it. A lot of people, some
Yeah.
people get to the point where they're stealing, and
You don't want to apologize because apologize is also admitting, and
yeah,
it gets
it's
worse because you have to fix that problem and you are not ready for that.
yeah, and I think that's the difference. It's like being ready. It's like being ready to acknowledge that, ready to accept that, and start facing all of this. I think consequences are the most important thing. It's like, especially if you're helping an addict, if you're shielding them from the consequences of their actions, you're not doing them any favors, in my opinion. I think all you're doing is prolonging their suffering. Let them receive the consequences of their actions naturally. Do not intervene. Let them feel and experience pain. It's almost like, a child. Sometimes you have to let them fall. You have to let them scrape their knee, so that they know they're not, that they can get up and they can dust themselves off, and themselves off, and they can be stronger as a result of it. They'll learn not to trip themselves up next time, or not to go too fast, or not to do something that's going to cause them pain because of the pain. And it's the same with addiction. That if their rock bottom is the place they need to reach in order for them to get clean, and you're doing everything you can to protect them from pain, all you're doing is protecting them from reaching that rock bottom. So you're just stopping them. The longer it takes them to get there, the longer they suffer.
You have to let them hit a wall. And but also, well, we are looking at this now from the other perspective of like trying to help someone who has an addiction, someone in your life. But also, if you blame them for it, like, why do you do this? Why do you keep doing drugs? Why do, like, they feel ashamed, and it's worse. At least with my mom, it was worse because if you blame them or you try to be angry at them, then they think you are against them and you are the bad one, right?
Yeah, I think trying to yeah, it's people, like, when you love someone, you see their problem and you want them to change. So you'll act in a way that's kind of almost judgmental. You're like, why are you doing it? Because people who aren't addicts can't make sense of addictive behavior. You look at it and think, this is killing you, destroying your life. And so from a logical perspective, you're saying,
Yeah,
what the
logical, but
yeah, like, what the
their
yeah.
brain is not logical. So when my mom took her own life, and I was thinking, like, why would she do this? Like, she had a nice life. She had like me, my brother, and then the nurse told me, well, but her brain doesn't work as yours. It's a different brain. So we have to understand this, but it's so complicated. So how do you find that balance?
Yeah, this is so tough. It's so delicate, but I think it's between, somewhere between doing nothing and just being present. Like, it's so hard, but if you're going to spend time being close to an addict, you must accept their behavior for exactly as like what it is. Don't try and change it, um, because the more you try and change, the more they'll push you away. So I think personally the best way to deal with them, depending on what stage of their addiction they're at, but if they're at a place where they don't want help, then don't try and help them.
It's so painful as well. Like you are seeing them almost ruining their lives, and how can? you intervene on that,
I
right?
think ultimately it's the fear of death.
Ex- that's
That's what
absolutely the
everybody. That's
fear.
what everybody fears the most, and that's why they feel so obliged and so like they must intervene. They must
Do
do
something.
something. And I think a lot of the time, yes, it is important to try and do something. But if that trying ends in rejection and abandonment from that person, and they're just basically disconnected from you, then I think it must shift. I think you must reach a point where you do so much to try and help them, match their energy in what they're trying to do. So if they're trying to get clean, then you do just as much for them as they're willing to do for themselves. If they're not willing to do anything to get clean, they're not ready. So anything you do is not going to help. Other than saying to them, look, I love you always, check in on them just to make sure that they're
Checking on
okay.
them, yes.
Yeah, just check in without judgment, just saying, look, I love you. I hope you're okay. I'm always here. And that reassurance. And when you're ready to get clean, let me know, because I'll take you to the meetings. I'll help you with therapy. If I can give you, I'll if you pay half of your therapy, I'll pay the other half for you. I'll help you get to meetings. Like, match them. It's all I always think, just match them. Don't do it all for them. I'll pay for all your therapy. I'll pay for all your rehab. It's like, no, they've got to
Because you are
have.
going over the top. It's like, why?
They've got to have some skin in the game. One, it's important that they know they can do it themselves, because otherwise you're taking that from them. You're taking like, they need to start to finally feel that they're capable of doing anything. They're feeling so worthless and so useless for such a long time. Starting their own recovery journey is an important part of their own healing. So you trying to do it all for them, you're taking that away. You're taking that away from them. That's something that they need to experience. You're taking their own pride away and giving it to yourself, because you're like, oh yeah, I'm the one who's helping you, I'm the one doing it all for you. And I don't think that's right. I think be with them and match their energy and match their input into their own recovery and be beside them. But that's as much as you can do, and that can sometimes mean doing nothing, because
Yeah, and you are not a psychologist. You are not an expert to give advice as much as you would like a miracle to happen or to be able to help them. They can only help themselves.
this is it. Like, but even if you are an expert or you are a psychologist or you are anything, if you go and
Sometimes
sit
it
down,
doesn't work.
it doesn't even matter if they're not ready to work with a psychologist, or like, you can try and approach an addict. You could have all the skills in the training in the world. You will not pull them out of that situation if they don't want to.
Yeah, and you told me that some mothers reach out to you. So could you tell me a bit about that? Because they have other sons, they want to help out, and
Yeah,
they
no,
don't
so they
want.
they work within these communities of young men and some women now as
Okay.
well, and they were just curious about my experience and wanted to talk to me a little bit and see if there was anything that we could do on a project together. But it didn't materialize in the end. But it was more just talking to them about their sons, and I did my best to kind of give them some reassurance around the fact that there's not a lot that they could have done. But it was a really sad. It was a Zoom call that I had with, yeah, I think it was 4 5, maybe even 5 mothers, and all of them lost their sons. And now they're kind of building these charities to help raise awareness and provide community settings for young adults to go and be part of, that are all kind of in that stage of early addiction where they don't know why, but they're using, and it's causing their problems, and they're trying to kind of get ahead of people that might be in danger or at risk of potentially trying to commit suicide due to cocaine induced psychosis and stuff like that.
Yeah, and your son now is the same age as when you started taking substances. Isn't that scary for you? What do you recommend him? Do you have these conversations about drugs with him?
Yeah, he's very aware of everything that I've been through. I talk to him on a very respectful level as a young man now. I speak to him like a young man, but I've never hid it from him in terms of when I got clean. I obviously hid everything from him when I was using, but I wasn't ashamed to admit to him the truth of what was happening in my life and why I'd let him down, and I wanted to let him know that it wasn't anything to do with him. So I kind of, when he was old enough, explained my behavior sometimes, and yeah, he's listened. He hears my videos. They come up on his TikTok, so yeah, he knows.
He must
Uh,
be really proud of you. My dad is a
I I
TikToker.
think so. Yeah, like even his friends, like when my stuff comes up on their TikTok and stuff as well. So I don't really know how he feels about it. I haven't asked him, to be honest, but But yeah, funnily enough, before I came in today, I got a call from his school saying that he's had a vape in his pocket. So we've got conversations happening later.
Well, the vape addiction right now is
Yeah, it's pretty
in
bad
the
out there, isn't it?
UK is really bad.
Yeah, I stopped in November after I did an ayahuasca ceremony. So after that, it was I just quit straight away. It was just like I'm not doing it. But yeah, in terms of your question about him, he knows that he can do whatever he wants with his life with regards to drugs, and that's entirely his decision. Uh, he will always have the honest truth from me about what my experience has been, and if he's debating doing a drug, I hope that he'll come and talk to me about it first, and I'll tell him the truth of my experience, and then he can make his own decision. Um, it's I won't stop him from doing anything because I can't. This is it. Like, we think I can only be the best version of myself and hope that he copies. And I believe that he will, but there's a chance that he might get to an age where he wants to try these things. And if he's going to do that, I'd rather know about it. I'd rather be in such an open and honest dialogue with him that he's not afraid to tell his father that he wants to try a new drug or he wants to go and experience something.
Yeah, like you are that and a friend, but I think you are also setting an example for him, and just also the fact that he's not growing up in a dysfunctional family. You are trying your best to, so he has someone to look up to, something that you didn't have, and also to have a healthy family. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, I think for being a parent, like, the best piece of advice that I can ever give is whatever you want your child to be, become that yourself, and then they will just copy you. You know, it's not about telling them all the time, you must do this, you must do that. Be it. Embody the person it is that you want them to grow up into. And, you know, and that, because children won't do what you say, they will do what you do. So they will just copy you. Like, I test it all the time. Like, I'll say a comment when I'm with my pals, with my son there, and then a few minutes later he'll say the same thing. Like, he
Yeah,
will copy the
you
exact, like, it
you
might be a judgment.
realize
Yeah, it will
the
be an opinion or a judgment of something that I've made. And then a few minutes later, we went to watch golf the other day, and I said something, and then he almost repeated the same phrase about 3 minutes later. So they will just inherently copy you. So it's not rocket science, you know, it's really just about becoming and embodying the person that it is that you hope that they will turn into, and let them copy you. But ultimately, we don't have much control over our children. They're gonna follow their own path. So I think openness, honesty, and a place of safety for them to communicate is so vital, and I hope that I provide that for my son. And yeah, ultimately though, especially boys, they're gonna do what they want to do.
yeah, but yeah, you have your child, like where your teenager now, your son, but I believe that every man or every woman, we still have our inner child, and we have to love our inner child. So, what would you tell to your younger self if you had him in front of you? What would you tell him?
Oh, I do this every day, so it would just be the same thing, that I love you, that I love you, that I'm always going to look after you, that I'm always going to protect you, that I am everything that you always needed, which is us. You know, that we don't need anyone to approve of us. The only thing that matters is how we feel about ourselves, and that's it. You know, yeah. I always connect with my inner child every day, and mainly it's just saying those words, that I love you, that I love you always. I love you, and because that's what he didn't have. You know, so for him, just to know that it's about kind of detaching from the external and bringing it all internally, that the validation you need comes from us, you know.
From love. Love is the solution. So if you can have everything in life, but if you don't have love and love for yourself, then you have nothing.
Yeah, your world is empty without it. So if you keep focusing on things that are not love based, you're wasting your life, in my opinion.
And for someone listening to us right now, we could be talking for ages because like there's so much to talk about. But for someone listening right now who is struggling with addictions or also recovering and they are feeling lost, what would you tell them?
I think the most important thing would be to just go and reach out and find a community that is going to support you, because doing this alone is not the answer. Like, we don't have to suffer through this alone. Like, my entire recovery journey has been accompanied by people who have loved me in a way that I never even knew I could receive love like that. The consistency, the way they showed up for me, and I'm not talking about my family either. These are friends that I made in recovery. They were the difference, like the community, and then later on spirituality. But at first, I couldn't really connect with spirituality, so I hated it. So it was all about the community and the people that I surrounded myself with. They were so important. So it's just about kind of doing some work, reaching out, being vulnerable, being honest, and start building that community that's going to support this life that you want to live.
Yeah, so could you also recommend some tools or also the rehab you went to? Maybe someone can look it up.
Yeah, as the rehab that I went to, I don't think is open anymore.
No?
No,
Okay.
I think because of COVID, they shut. Yeah, lots of them did. But 12-step fellowships was where I originally started my recovery journey, and there are vast communities all over the country that you can go and be part of and get free help straight away. So, as a starting point with everyone I coach, that's generally one of the places that I will send them.
You know, so reach out to you on social media.
Of course, yeah, no, I mean, I don't like to sell my services too much, but if you want to
You
reach
have
out and
to,
work,
yes.
if you want to work with me, then by all means, yeah, just drop me a message and yeah, we can start working together straight away.
Yeah, I will. Well, there are some helplines as well. I know sometimes it's harder to tell someone close to you than to a stranger because a stranger doesn't know you. So there are some helplines. You just have to dial 988. It's a suicide and crisis lifeline. Or also wherever you are listening to us from, find a helpline.com. So I will put more resources, of course, and thank you so much for being so open and honest with me here. I hope this helps because, as I said, there are so many people who take their own life each year. So I hope we can help 110, like how many people they listen to us. And yeah, thank you so much
You're very
for
welcome.
coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate
And
it.
yeah, so I hope this helped. And as you know, you can follow me on Everybody's Lost on Spotify and YouTube, and also you can find us on TikTok. And I hope it helps. Thank you so much, and have a lovely day, evening, like whatever time it is where you are listening us from.